Welcome to another episode of Indiana Politics. I'm Deb Chubb, and we are really excited to have Paul Kendrick join us today, the Executive Director for Rust Belt Rising, a terrific political assistance group for Democratic candidates in 6 Midwestern states. So I just want to give a little background in my experience last year when I started that group, 25 Women for 2020, and was trying to recruit women and help them get elected to the state legislature. I was desperately searching around the country for other organizations who might help us, who might help Indiana overall. And there were really very few. And so I was really excited to come across Rust Belt Rising. So Paul, so tell us a little bit about yourself and tell us about Rust Belt Rising.
So Rust Belt Rising is working to help Democrats be the party of all working people and really win in places in our Midwest region where we've seen some trending away from us and the 2016 election obviously was a traumatic thing that was the impetus for the creation of Rust Belt Rising. And we train candidates and work with state and local and all levels of candidates and campaigns, but also local activists on how we are best connecting with working families, winning seats, and creating thriving communities, really addressing the foundational economic issues that we want to make sure that we are leading on so people really know what Democrats are for and what we will do for your family, how we are better for people's bottom lines. And so we have now a great network of about 400 leaders across Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Ohio, Illinois, and as we are talking about today, Indiana. And so, some of these are folks who have run, some are people that have worked on the campaigns or with candidates or just very active local leaders in their community, but we're all trying to learn from each other and the relevant presenters that we provide in Zoom sessions on that someone in Ohio can learn from someone in Indiana and someone in Michigan can learn from someone in Pennsylvania. And we provide messaging to our members, and everything we do is free. But we give people ways to talk about these different issues. And we have done polling in the past to help us have a really acute understanding of people's economic challenges and priorities. And we ran a virtual voter registration program in the fall that helped register over 40,000 voters in the Midwest. So that was something we're really proud about during that kind of all hands on deck moment. But our core piece is the training. And so we have new courses and individual sessions this year so that, again, people can be part of this community of other change makers and bring things to your work in your community that will make you more effective in what we're all trying to do in creating positive change and helping Democrats win and ultimately helping, parts of our region that we want to accelerate economic growth and to make sure families have all that they need to succeed.
That's great. I was able to join your group and had really got to enjoy some of the terrific training that you did. Everything from candidates, making videos to talking points to reaching out to rural voters. Really great speakers and great training. And I think last year you were working with about 165-ish candidates. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. It ended up being 163 that were on the ballot. And so we're really proud of some candidates that were able to win over these, the 18 and the 20 cycle. We've helped 44 races that the candidate we've worked with has won. And then there's a lot of candidates that did not win, but we're really just as proud of them, because what we found was they averaged a 4,000 vote increase from their 2016 candidate. And we had 23 candidates ran in districts where Democrats didn't even field a candidate in 16, and they earned 500,000 votes. And each vote is hard work. Someone you reached out to, persuaded or turned out. So we're really proud of the impact that people are having, and we think there are a lot of, and this is what I'm sure we're talking about today, but I think there are lessons from races that we couldn't quite win this time, but we might be able to in the future, and ones that we did. But certainly these candidates, we're going to keep working with them because we really believe this is change that takes a few election cycles. And so, it's a family, and once you're in it, we're not going to let you go. We want to keep helping these leaders develop, and we want to keep helping those who, maybe are like a local party leader or something who might not be the one running, but cycle after cycle is going to be the one helping people run. And so we want to keep working with our whole network, whether you're a candidate or whether you're someone who helps campaigns.
That's great. And so, we had that experience in Indiana too.
Yeah.
We had terrific, outstanding candidates. And like you said, most of them didn't win, but many of the ones that I worked with, these outstanding women Democrats, were first-time candidates. And now they are quite seasoned, or, they are organized, they know what they're doing, and they are ready to go. So, so even though they didn't win, they are really way far ahead of where they started. But I want to talk about the 2020 election results and see if we can do some comparison among the states. So in Indiana, and I will say in the 27 races where I was working with Democratic women, they increased the Democratic votes by almost 100,000 in those 27 Indiana districts. Unfortunately, the Republican vote in those same districts cumulatively increased by about 150,000. So, which to me was just unbelievable. I mean, that just so shocked me. The Republican turnout was just insane. So, and that was kind of the story amongst, all of the at least state level races and pretty much the congressional races in Indiana. So, how does that compare with the other states you worked with? I mean, tell us we're not alone. Tell us it's not just us.
And it was such a joy and an honor to work with some of those same candidates that you were working with, in part thanks to you of letting them know about what we did. And so I just think, wow, what a phenomenal group of women that you've recruited and are supporting their leadership development. And I'm so excited for their futures. And again, and that is completely inclusive of those who may not have won, because I think they are going to be finding different ways to make change, and they are going to be in elected office sooner or later, whether it's local or state level, or but they're just an awesome group. And so I've loved getting to know the ones that I got to work with as well, and that participated in our sessions. And so but to your question, well, we did find it. So across the region, there was this surge in kind of sporadic white working class and rural white voters, and that really came out for Trump. And so the Trump dynamic is interesting, where Trump was pretty bad for Republicans in suburbs, where in 18 and 20, in like places like Michigan and Wisconsin, Oakland County, Waukesha County, Kalamazoo County, Democrats made a lot of inroads with those suburban, and a lot of these suburbs are really diverse now, but particularly the like college educated white and women in particular, going, really against Trump, voting for Democrats. And so we made a lot of progress there in the Trump era, but then Trump had significant appeal in rural areas, and particularly more so in Indiana and Ohio suburbs than in Pennsylvania, like a Montgomery County, or in Wisconsin and Michigan. And so so there's a lot of unknowns in the future. Like, will those same voters keep coming out for other Republicans, or was it, a surge more about, Trump's appeal to them? And we don't know that, but also the future is we can shape the future too, in that, finding effective persuasion of these voters, and obviously making sure, particularly in a midterm when we hold the White House, and making sure that we're turning out our supporters and our base, and voters of color, and young people, and so and having a message that resonates across all the voters we need to win. But we did find overall that our candidates increased the Democratic share of the vote more than the Republicans increased the Republican share of the vote. So that might not have been true in Indiana, but across our 6 states, it was true that. But the problem was Republicans were starting at a higher baseline. So our Democratic candidate might have made this jump from, in 16, the person was at 40% and they got up to like 45%. But the Republic, or they just got more votes. They got, 4,000 more votes, and the Republican may have only gotten, 1,000 more votes because it was just a super high turnout election. Everyone had a feeling about Donald Trump, whether it was positive or negative. But the Republican only got a little more. So our candidate outworked the Republicans, no doubt, and was really effective and was closing the gap, and we keep closing the gap, but they had that higher baseline. Then they added some more voters. And so we couldn't reach them in districts where I would have guessed that the number of votes our candidate got, looked like a win number in 4 years ago, but it wasn't a win number this time. And so that's, so every election's different and you have these different dynamics, and it's all really interesting, but and maybe we can talk more about it, but I think there are some lessons for what this means for the future. But I think that was the dynamic, but I think, again, it's, that we just have to look at what is persuasive to voters. And, and I think we saw in the Georgia runoff, people didn't come out on the Republican side without Trump on the ballot. So I don't think we should by any means be giving up, because, I just think he has a real, it's hard for me to understand, but he does have an appeal to certain voters that, other Republicans may not, but we cannot, just be complacent in imagining that will necessarily be true. We have to really make that true in helping voters understand that we are better for their pocketbook, for their family, than our opponents who really have no plan at all.
You're right. That is the question: is what will be the impact of Trump not being on the ballot in 2022? Will that reduce the turnout among Republicans? I mean, that's that's the hope, I suppose. So and that did happen in Indiana too. We did have a few districts where the Democrat did increase their vote totals at a higher rate than Republicans did, but still not quite enough. So, but for the most part, what was shocking to me was that if you looked at the percentages, they were like identical to the last race. I mean, because they both increased their votes by the same amount. And so the resulting percentage going to Democrats versus Republicans was the same as the last election. So that was really frustrating. The question, people talk all the time, about messaging. And we also are talking about, and I know you talk about that a lot, and I think we can always rely on you to work on that issue and provide great analysis on messaging for different constituencies throughout the state. But one of the, of course, the big lesson from the, Stacey Abrams playbook was really the grassroots efforts and the coalition building of those. So we're seeing in Indiana this dynamic, and it has been going on for some years, where there's the Democratic Party, and there are other Democrats in the county who cannot get along with the Democratic Party for one reason or another, and start another Democratic club. And then somehow there's another Democratic club. So we have all of these fragmented Democratic clubs within the counties. And so we have to deal with that. And then on top of that, now this year, we're seeing in Indiana just complete blossoming of other progressive or Democratic groups. Some who are nonpartisan, who are just going to be doing voter registration. Some who are partisan and are looking for candidates and are trying to support progressive candidates, et cetera. So more than when I did this in 2019 and 2020. So I wonder if you're seeing that sort of dynamic happening in other states, and if you've considered, kind of adding to your curriculum this the skill of trying to create coalitions. That's what Stacey Abrams really, stressed, was that, you have to let everybody play, but there has to be a coalition, so that people are not duplicating efforts and missing other important activities. What do you think about that project?
Yeah, I think it's fantastic, and I think that Georgia lesson of organizing takes time, and it's it's okay to understand that things don't always happen in one cycle. But if we are, I think ultimately what we have to do, and I think we can learn the lesson from Wisconsin as well, when you look at how grassroots action oriented the Democratic Party of Wisconsin is, we have to make our kind of state and local parties just very inclusive, very about not, it can't be a club of people that are just happy that, okay, it's just, my friends and I, and it's just our, it's just kind of our group as us, super involved insiders and people, and it's not that they're like trying to keep people out, but are you intentionally working to bring people in and having an orientation of just kind of seeking people out, welcoming, wanting them, and activating people around, and maybe it's about it's about things that really motivate us, like it could be about fighting for funding in schools, or it could be about advocating and redistricting to make sure communities aren't left out, and voting rights, and it could be about fighting for increasing the minimum wage and better wages, but taking action around issues that are galvanizing, talking to voters, reaching people, building our list so we can have ongoing conversations of those we've talked to, and building coalitions with those issues that so that these three different groups can work together on an action, and also work with that environmental group and the women's rights group and the teachers union and the and just like the different entities that can be a coalition that we're taking action together on, because that's what you want. Action builds momentum, and we don't want to just kind of do nothing and then we field a candidate, but are we really building in our taking action? Are we building bonds between people? Are we letting them know they're important? Are we giving them roles that they can feel proud to own? Are we just kind of like building the social piece of working together and taking action? And so I think that's what it's just at the heart of organizing, and so so it's good that things are popping. I mean, that's great to hear that things are popping up, and so it's can we work together to be strategic, to not reinvent the wheel, to have good theories of change of how we're working to reach folks and bring them along in a community, but I do think there's some healthy soul searching going on in different like local and state parties of how we can learn from Georgia, and how we can be as grassroots oriented as possible to really reach voters. And I think that's really necessary. We can't just rely on the same playbook. And God bless the people that have been doing this work year after year. I mean, it's not easy. I mean, and that person in the county party that is finding people to run for every office, and is just doing all the things that go. I mean, it's a really unheralded hard work, and so God bless them for doing it. But we just want to make sure so much popped up in the last 4 years of the indivisible groups and the swing lefts and and different things, and how do we bring that activist energy into what we do as Democrats, and it's okay if some groups wants to be in an indivisible group and some group wants to be a Democratic Party group, like that's fine too. But but can we find ways to work together and ultimately be pushing towards the same thing?
Right. I mean, because the other side of that question, about what will happen with Trump not on the ballot is, will that, I mean, maybe it will reduce the number of Republican voters that turn out. But what if it also reduces the number of Democratic voters who turn out?
That's
I mean, Trump being on the ballot is really a double-edged sword.
No question about it.
So I think it's really just going to be so important to help states develop these coalitions of all these, not totally disparate, but quite individual and unique organizations so that we are all working toward the same goal.
Absolutely, and organizing across our communities, and listening to Black and Latino led organizations. How can we serve? How can we help? How can we support and be an ally? How can we work together? Really building diverse coalitions, and um, but I think, but you're right about the fear that I think a lot of us have, in seeing what happened in the Obama era of like, yeah, we thought, okay, we got the White House, whew, got the bad guy out. Okay, things are under control. We got, good people are in charge in DC. I can focus on other things, and so it is important as leaders that we, really push ourselves to keep our same level of involvement and keep working hard. No, to just avoid complacency, and because if we are, we'll have a absolutely brutal 2022 if we're just not doing anything. So that this is a challenge for all of us, and we have to keep giving money. We have to keep getting people to give money to these guys. We have to keep taking the actions, bringing people together, give them things to do, things that and listen to ideas and create actions that are important to take together to advance our priorities, to get things done, so we have something to talk about. So we show we're not just about hating Donald Trump, but we're really about delivering change, and we're fighting bad things that are happening in a state legislature like Indiana's. And we gotta keep up the work, or we'll just have a really, really hard midterm.
So in Indiana, and I'm not sure if you follow like the legislation in all of the states that you're working in, but Indiana's just gone right around the bend. With the legislation that's being proposed. We have a supermajority here, and so the legislation is just eye-poppingly bizarre. And hypocritical and inconsistent. And here's an example. The Indiana legislature is pushing a bill to get rid of the requirement to have a permit to carry a gun. So police won't know if you have that gun legally or not, because you're not required to you wouldn't be required to have a permit. And at the same time, they are removing the authority of Indianapolis, the big urban area in Indiana, to address issues that create poverty and, frankly, desperation that leads to gun violence. So they're like kind of knocking Indianapolis off at the knees at their ability to address issues. And they also are introducing a bill to create a task force to address the excessive gun violence in Indianapolis. And I mean, just none of it makes any sense at all. Yeah. And it is just so bizarre and alarming. So my question is this happening in other states too? And will it ultimately, because I know there are states that even though they voted for Biden in the presidential election, still down ballot races went to a majority of Republicans. In Indiana, of course, the presidential race went to Trump, and the down ballot races went to Republicans. So is that happening in other states? And are we seeing just, this kind of crazy legislation in Republican legislatures?
Well, we are, but luckily in the other 5 states, we have a Democratic governor to stop this stuff, and it's just unfortunate in Indiana. Well, I'm sorry, not in Ohio, but in 4 of our 6 states, we have a Democratic governor who in all cases we really need to protect, or hold in Pennsylvania's case in the midterm, because the legislatures are introducing the same terrible stuff, attacking transgender people and scapegoating them, or about like cancel culture, like these like culture war things, and really repressive voting measures to attack voting rights. We're seeing it, but we have to hold these governorships in these states, and obviously win more seats to get more done. But I think if Republicans are clearly defining themselves as kind of the party that is more focused on all these other things that I do think really creates an opening for us to help people understand that we are the party of good jobs and good wages, and it's frustrating that that hasn't gotten through to a lot of people that, and so I think we just have to do more there to really communicate that, lift up messengers who show it, and really be focused on things like wages and good jobs and funding education and clean water and make sure people have the healthcare, prescription drugs they need, protecting retirement. Like these are issues of what it means to be Democrat, and Republicans just aren't even engaging on these issues. So I do think I know it's hard, and I know they're winning a lot of votes on their side through things like guns, but I do think we have to, and strike a balance of making sure we're standing up against terrible things that they're doing and fighting for our values, but really making sure we're not having this whole political debate on their terms, on the issues they want to talk about. And that how about we talk about raising people's wages and make them have to explain why they're against doing that, which they are. And but Democrats, because we want to make sure people are healthy and safe. We got this perception as this like lockdown party and thing, and it's just it's really unfair. But again, we know the Republicans don't play fair, and we have to be able to really say what we're for, and that I think it really just is better for families.
It is. All right. Well, we're running out of time. So I want to give you a moment just to tell people how they can find Rust Belt Rising and how they can join.
Yeah. And I want to say one thing before I do. A key lesson I took from places where our candidate won, where the trends were challenging otherwise, is those people that have been involved for a while. So I just really urge people to keep up what you're doing, because we're going to work on trying to change this Democratic brand perception problem. But the best way to transcend it is being someone who is known for just being yourself and your connection to local issues and deep, connection to the community and talking about the issues locally in your community. That's where we saw people being able to defy that. And then certainly like with a strong economic focus and, the local strengths and how we create jobs with that. So I just really urge people to keep doing what you're doing, stay involved, and then to benefit from what we're doing, because we want to help you. If you go to rustbeltrising.com, you'll see a sign up. Either if you want to sign up to be one of our leaders and get all of our resources and invites to our sessions, you can do that there, or just generally sign up for the listserv if you want to just get some emails first, see what we're doing overall. But I urge people to go ahead, sign up to be one of our leaders. You don't have to attend every Zoom, but you'll know what the sessions are, and when they're of interest, we want you to join. You'll get our past messaging, polling, our assistance to you in your own individual work strategically, and most of all, getting to benefit from all these other folks who are working on the same things you are. So go sign up on rustbeltrising.com. Follow us on Twitter at RBR Training. You can find us on Facebook. But we want to help you win.
That's great. All right. Well, thank you so much. I love your positive energy. You're really great. It's hard, being this in these states and a little demoralizing sometimes. But so it's really great to hear your positive energy going forward. Good. And we look forward to working with you again. So
all right. So can't wait. Thank you for all you're doing in Indiana.
All right. You're welcome.
All right.